For many years, Richmond Raceway has been known as NASCAR's action track. With its quick speeds, multiple grooves, little banking, and high likelihood for contact, this three-quarter-mile circuit has been a fan favorite. Tonight, the top drivers in the Precision Racing League look to do battle at America's premier short track. Who will take the checker flag on this D-shaped oval? We're about to find out here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the second race of the PRL NASCAR Cup Series season, live from the virtual Richmond Raceway in Richmond, Virginia. I'm Justin Prince. Alongside the booth tonight is Christian Challenger. Alongside me in the director's seat will be Joe Peak. And our cameras are provided, as always, by the great Dougie Beard. Now, Christian, this is the track you finished 11th at earlier in the year in the NASCAR Peak Interviews iRacing Series, and a challenging one to boot. What can you tell us about this tough short track?
It's a very tricky 0.75 mile track. It's really difficult getting off of turns 2 and 4. Car always snaps, and we're going to be doing 125 laps here tonight. Should be looking at about 19.7 to 20.1 second lap times on fresh tires, and I'm going to pass you over to the lap guide so you can see what it's like to get around here.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Global SimRacing Channel. I'm Brian Yazek and welcome to Richmond International Raceway. Fun little three-quarter mile short track in Richmond, Virginia. Without further ado, here's how we're going to get around this little joint. Richmond is tricky in the Cup car because the Cup car has a lot of high-end torque, so you're going to have to watch that wheel spin. For your hot lap, find this yellow line. This is going to be your best friend. Back into the gas, about three quarters, back onto the throttle. If you get onto it a little too early, you'll spin off the corner or get a little bit loose like I did right there. Back into 3 and 4, find the yellow line again, roll it, back into the gas, heavy now, and there's your hot lap. Now, with Richmond, with the way that the tires burn off and the way that drivers just have totally different styles, you're going to see a whole lot of different things throughout the event. So, really going into turn 3, the bottom is pretty much the way. You want to brake right before that safer barrier. You can kind of roll up here a little bit and kind of diamond it, but either way, coming off the corner, wheel spin is going to be your biggest enemy throughout the event. Back down into 1 again. Turn 1 doesn't really have a great braking point to follow. There's no light there, there's no safer barrier start, so you really have to go by feel. I personally use the sound of the engine. When it gets to that certain sound, you know to roll out of it and get into the brakes. So, what you also might see is guys start to run that second groove as the tires and fuel start to burn off. So you'll see them enter really wide, going in here into 1, floating through the middle, straddling that seam right there, then cutting down to the bottom. Once again, watching that wheel spin off the corner. Back down into turn 3, braking at the safer barrier, floating it through the middle here, letting it ride that seam, back into the gas about three quarters, back into full throttle now, finally. And then that will complete your lap around here. So Richmond gives these drivers a lot of avenues to play in, and it's sure to be a good race, especially in the hot and slick sun. The nighttime event here tends to be a little bit more stable, but with the way that these drivers go, it's sure to put on a great show for us here today on GSRC. I'm Brian Yazek. Enjoy the show.
That was a look at your Global SimRacing Channel lap guide around the prestigious Richmond Raceway. As we come into the second race of the season, let's take a look at your point standings, starting with the driver standings on the season so far. For those that missed last week's action at Las Vegas, Bradley Hawley's on top of the standings after the victory with 45 total points to his name for Winneback Fun Center. Team Zero Racing's Paul Johnson comes in second, with Nick Ketchum, Colin Carroll, and Charles Sumner rounding out the top 5. Drivers like Zemke, Roberts, and Colton Lane are just outside that picture. That leads us to the team standings for the PRL Cup Series, where we've seen with the victory Winneback Fun Center up at the top of the standings. They also see Lane and Walter amongst their group. Hard Knock South comes in second at the moment, with Team Zero Racing, Winneback's Ramrod organization, and Team 24/7 rounding out the top 5 in the team standings. A total of 10 organizations are taking part so far, entering tonight's action. But of course, a lot to talk about, including the race details. Christian, let's go to those details now as we get ready for race number 2 of the season.
Well, as you just said, we had the round 1 last week, and we're on the second round of this 10-round series. And we got 125 laps here tonight, all 1 hour. Now, we've also got 17-point incident cap and fixed setups and 100% fuel. So we're expecting that fuel won't be a problem, but we might come up against that 1 hour time limit.
Yeah, that is something to definitely keep an eye on. 1 hour to get 125 laps in. Might not sound like a lot if we stay green, but we were talking about this before the start of tonight's action. It's a track known for a lot of attrition, to say the very least, especially on the exits of turns 2 and 4.
Yeah, it's really tricky. It's always a big issue, especially if you're alongside somebody and you're trying to get off the corner and execute a pass. And it's always so easy to just kind of get in the gas just a little bit too hard and get the rear wheels kind of spinning, and then it's difficult to gather it up, especially on the front stretch because it's a curve as well. It's always tricky, and we always kind of see a couple of wrecks coming off the corners here.
And say we get a long green flag run in this event, because there's a chance at least we get maybe at least a couple, to say the very least. What will it take for drivers to continuously have the most consistency tonight? Because, as we're seeing the practice time, some decent paces overall with the fastest time of the 19.815. Those times aren't going to stick as this race goes on and the wear kicks up.
Yeah, I mean, the longer you go into the run, the less grip you're going to have, and the harder it's going to be to kind of maintain composure on the throttle pedal. And the best advice I can give anybody for this track is to just try and paint the yellow line around the whole track. The lower you can stay and the closer to that line you can stay, even on the very exit of the corners, it's almost always better to be down there. And that's the way to kind of really keep your tires on at this track and run a consistent pace and stay in a good rhythm.
One of the other things that's going to make it hard, though, Christian, is let's bring up the weather for tonight's race. And it is a fairly hot racetrack right now. 76 degrees Fahrenheit is the air temp, but 81 degrees Fahrenheit is the track temp. And official NASCAR races for the NIS series, which is essentially a 200-lap distance, there was a lot of yellow flags and a lot of lack of grip throughout the racetrack for a majority of the teams. So also have to deal with high humidity and a little bit of winds, but that means on top of the less amount of grip with the wear, there's going to be not a lot of grip at all tonight, Christian.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting consideration with the fixed setup, because they're built around kind of a default weather scenario. So every time you have dynamic weather or dynamic skies and so on, it does kind of make them a little bit different. And especially this track, it has a tendency to kind of feel a little bit numb at night. And so what that means is that kind of in the day, you're always expecting there to be no grip on corner exit, and the night sort of pulls you into a full sense of security where you think there's loads of grip. And the one time you find out there's not is usually the one time that you don't make it to the next corner.
Yeah, there's some cars just behind, say, Mr. Walter here, Brandon Walter, that can exemplify that a little bit. This is that grouping you're just seeing, by the way, was drivers practicing restarts for tonight. As we finish the final moments of qualifying so far, track position could be very key here with this warm-up, with the final couple seconds of the warm-up reaching its way towards qualifying.
Yeah, track position is always huge on short tracks, and even more so with this new package that we've got in terms of the aero. I mean, I call it the new package. We've had it for almost a year now, but still seems new to me. And one of the first things we noticed in the peak race here was that there is aero push, which sounds strange for a short track, but it really is significant, and especially on a fixed setup, that's going to make it really hard to get and stay close to people, especially over a long run.
There's a lot to talk about as this night goes on, but as you see in the upper left-hand corner of your screen, the cars are spinning and cartwheeling their way to the qualifying line. Warm-ups are over. Drivers will have 5 minutes to set their fastest 2 laps on the racetrack for tonight to gain some vital track position. As you've seen, Bradley Hawley was on top of the practice board. Rob Haynes was second in practice. Paul Williams, Nick Ketchum, Brandon Walter were inside the top 5 as the drivers make their way quickly to the racetrack here. So with qualifying, what do you expect to see with some of these cars, as the times and speeds could be a little bit different in this situation compared to, of course, practice and race conditions?
I'm expecting that we might see as low as maybe a 19.6 for pole. I think we're going to see a lot of variance in the field just because of how hard it is to get a good Q lap at this track. I know myself really struggles with it around here, so I wouldn't be surprised if we see some of our main contenders kind of having a bit of a bad session here and kind of starting in the midfield.
And currently on top of the board with that Nick Ketchum, as you see with the 19.888, the air driver so far in the 22nd bracket. We'll see how Ketchum does on the second lap. Can he bump up the time? No. About 2/10 off, and that puts a lot of pressure on the first lap too, because that seems consistent with what we've seen much of the week. First lap at Richmond has been the fastest lap out of the 2 qualifying times for much of the week for much of the drivers here, it seems. Christian.
Yeah, when it comes to short tracks, the first lap is normally always the fastest. On the bigger 1.5 miles and so on, you kind of get the car wound up on the first lap, and then the second is your kind of go lap. On the plus side, though, with having the 2-lap system for short tracks, they can at least pull it up and go again. So it's more pressure, but kind of less pressure because you've got 2 goes.
Especially if you're some of the drivers that get loose. Drivers like Engelman you're seeing. Drivers like Haynes now already stopping on the racetrack already, as some of the drivers already recorded both their times. In fact, 17 drivers have already put in lap times. The fastest is still Ketchum with the 19.888. That is about a couple tenths off the fastest practice time so far. You're now looking, meanwhile, at Josue Talez. He tries to record a time. Talez, I should pardon me say, in the 24 machine. He was amongst the drivers that were near the top of the practice charts.
Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised that we're kind of actually slower than the practice times. Normally, the practice sessions tend to just get slower and slower with the more cars that join and the more cars on track and so on. And you do normally see a bit of a pickup between practice and queue times. But we're not really seeing that yet. I'm wondering if kind of some of the guys who haven't gone yet might throw in a couple of surprises for us here.
Drivers like Hawley still looking to record their first official times. Taking a look at the 184 machine. The North Star Title Company machine coming out of turn 4. This will move him to the top of the chart. First driver in the 8's at 19.812. Puts him on the provisional pole.
Yeah, he was looking really solid there, doing exactly what I was saying about just painting the yellow line all the way around the track. And it looked like a good lap, especially coming off of 4. And he's got over a 10th on the field right now.
Second time is about a 10th slower, but currently the only driver to get into the 8 so far. 21 total have put in qualifying laps. Make it 22 as Dan McLaren rounds out the top 3. Ketchum still second. Talez in 4th. Zemke rounds out the top 5. So final couple minutes of qualifying here as the last of the drivers try and get their best track position here. What are some things to keep in mind for this racing action tonight? As mentioned, 125 laps the distance, but an hour to do so.
Yeah, it is very, very difficult to pass here. As we were kind of talking a little bit in the pre-race, that if you're the car on the bottom and you're trying to execute the pass, it's really difficult to not kind of get overexcited and get on the gas and kind of cause yourself a problem. But we've seen even in the real life races that the top line is a very powerful defensive tool around this track, and it can really be used to keep a much faster car behind you. You're going to need a huge pace differential to actually be able to execute a pass quickly and effectively around here.
Catarino coming across the stripe on the 22.244 rather, 18th on the board. This is some of the coldest temperatures we've seen of the night, with 79 degrees Fahrenheit for the last of the drivers on the circuit. Rachel Hunt also on circuit trying to record the time. You see that temperature has gone on down. Catarino not able to bump up the time. But many of the drivers that have actually waited for the colder track are not bumping up the times. In fact, a bit slower as the qualifying time runs out for the 30 competitors. Let's take a look at your starting lineup for round 2 of the PRL Cup Series. Starting on the pole is Bradley Hawley, who will start alongside Nick Ketchum on row number 1. Dan McLaren starts in 3rd with Josue Talez in P number 4. Adam Zemke starts in 5th with Colin Carroll rounding out row number 3. Behind them will be Mitchell Clark in the number 3 machine, and Colton Lane, one of the drivers to watch, rounding out the top 8. Robert Engelman will start alongside Robert Bisson Jr. inside the top 10, Christian.
And then moving on to 11th, we've got Frank Peacock and Brandon Chatley one of our regulars in 12th there. And then we got Eric Roberts and Daniel Cervantes Marino. He's actually done pretty well with that 14th place right there. And Jared Morgan and Craig Holden picking up row 13 right there. Brandon Walter and Mike Caterino. I was actually expecting a little bit more out of Walter with his 17th position there. Then we got a guy I believe is new to this not necessarily this league, but this series. John LaBeouf in 19th, Paul M. Johnson in 20th.
Rachel Hunt starts in 21st tonight. Finished in the back half of the field at Las Vegas. Charles Sumner in 22nd. Baron Hilton starts 23rd, and alongside him in 24th, an Air Series regular, one of the top drivers in the Rick Tech Cup Series as well for Extreme Motorsports. It's in 24th, the last qualifying time of Rob Haynes. Paul Williams II starts in 25th alongside Alan Dobbs as the first drivers not to record times. Demarius Hickenbottom starts alongside the 67 of Pat Harvey, rounding out the grid, Scott McKinney, Justin Hurst. So 30 cars on the track tonight. Again, here at Richmond, it is a tough track. The action track sees bankings of just 14 degrees in the turns, 8 degrees on the front stretch, 2 degrees down the back stretch, and of course not a lot of space to drive around the circuit. Everyone lined up behind the pace cars. We get ready to go green from Richmond. Drivers will have 1 lap to get things underway here, Christian.
Yeah, I was actually just noticing that Rob Haynes is starting really far in the back, and we were expecting him to be contending for the win here, so it's going to be really interesting to see if he's going to be able to get through the field, and if he can, how quickly he can do that.
Who else should we keep an eye on? Because we were talking about Hawley and, of course, mentioned Haynes. Who else should we keep an eye on here tonight after some good qualifying practice times?
Well, I think Colton Lane's always one that you've got to watch. We've seen him contend in the previous season, and there's a couple of other guys as well that I'd like to keep an eye on. I'd say Mike Caterino. He sometimes pulls something out, and he's starting 18th tonight, which is fairly far back, but if he can have a clean run, he should be able to get up to the top 10, I think.
Drivers all set to go. The pace car's off. Bradley Hawley in control of the field. Green flag waiting at the stand as they approach the starting zone. Green flag up on the stand. Onto the lap pedal they go. We're racing at Richmond. And a clean start for the top drivers in the field. Side by side they go, quickly cutting down to the bottom. Catch them. Nearly sign off the nose of Dan McLaren.
Pretty clean start so far, actually. I thought we might see something on the very start of the race, but everybody's doing a really good job and kind of getting single file already near the front.
Couple drivers in the back getting a bit loose, but so far, top 4 able to find their way to the bottom side. This grouping, though, still stuck in side-by-side battling. Zemke forced to fall behind Mitchell Clark. Again, that's for 6th, 7th, and 8th position. Engelman trying to get the high side to work, nearly tapped the outside wall. We're talking about this a little bit with a bit of the side draft as well and a bit of the right rear quarter panels to get some passing done of the later going once the tire wear kicks in. So far, Engelman falling back to the drivers. I don't think he wants to be around in the short run.
Yeah, it looks like the top 15's all kind of got themselves sorted out really quickly, and just to touch a little bit on that with the side draft and the right rear quarter, that really is the only effective way to pass in these cars on a long run is to get to somebody's outside and get to their right rear so that you can kind of get a big run on them on exit.
We do have one car that only made it about a lap and a half, we should note. Hilton is in the garage area right now getting damage on the front end on a tow truck, but the battling still continues on with drivers like Walter and Johnson trying to shuffle for position near 3 wide in that group. Drivers being aggressive on the early going. Just about 5 laps already down to the books at Richmond.
Yeah, it looked like Craig Holden just got caught out a little bit there. He was in a bit of a 3 wide that I don't think he realized he was in, and he really washed up in turn 1 and just grabbed the wall a little bit.
Yeah, you see some of the shuffling now. Near bumping and banging in this group, in fact, as you see them now having to deal with a car slow on the bottom side. That's the one machine stuck in the bottom. Mike Caterino having a bit of back end damage. Might have got a shot from somebody on the Mac K Designs logo on his rear end.
Yeah, it looked like he kind of got a bit out of shape on his own there out of 2 that time, but he's definitely had contact with somebody, so somebody out there has got a damaged nose. You just need to find out who it is.
Yeah, you're seeing on board here with Caterino now all the way back in 23rd position. And you can kind of tell with some of the cars, They're already getting loose, and we're just about 8 laps in. Track temp has also ticked up 2 degrees as a car gets loose in front of them. Cars are stacking up on the bottom side. Haynes spinning around. Still green, though, as Haynes is trying to get back going.
That was really unlucky for Haynes. He was kind of just trying to pick his way through there, and it looked like the 25 got a bit of a shot, and he gathered it up, but the ensuing stack-up kind of took Haynes with it.
And take a look at the replay here. A couple drivers were getting loose on the exit of turn 2, and this is something we were saying could be tough. However, this time, the 25 machine got some help to cause the stack-up.
Yeah, that's another thing, is that if you overshoot your corner, you're going to get loose in the center, and then you're going to have to kind of park it to get the car back under control. And if the guy behind you has got a really good roll, it's very difficult for him to kind of pull up and stop without getting into you. So it's just generally a very difficult track to get around.
I have to agree on the difficulty there, but Cervantes Moreno, by the way, was that car referring to that. Got the contact, is now in the garage area. The battle on the screen, though. Zemke has opened up the top line for some passing, able to get by Engelman. Still trying to get on by, though, is Colton Lane. So this is what you were talking about, and what we've seen a bit in real life on Saturday. If you can get to the top side of somebody and force a driver loose like that, you can make passes. Engelman is now stuck with a rotating door rounder up on his top side nearly.
Yeah, it's pretty much textbook right there. You see, he just got to his right rear, and then coming off the 2 because he was still there, he was just able to really get the power down on the top side and completely clear him before he got to turn 3.
Behind them, Bisa Jr. is currently running pretty calmly in about 11th spot. Trying to gain some time for Bisa. Loss of 1 position so far, but still a long ways to go. Still nice and green and clean for the most part so far in the early going in this one. Or I see one car a bit slow, though, heading towards the pit lane. Alan Dobbs has also had some trouble in the 22 machine. So a couple drivers have already had to go to the pit lane early. Still no yellow flags, though.
Yeah, it looks like we're seeing a lot of people having kind of solo or maybe 1 to 2 car accidents, but they're not resulting in them stopping on the racing surface, so the yellow's not coming out.
Lap traffic ahead, though, is going to start to become a factor. Rob Haynes, remember him? Just a few laps ago, he was battling to try and get himself up the field. Now has a chance to be a lap down. A second car is also coming out in front of him. Paul Williams, the second without a nose. How difficult is lap traffic at Richmond?
It really depends on who it is, and I think with it being Rob Haynes, he's going to know that he can't afford to go a lap down, especially not at this race with how short it is. So I expect him to fight to stay on that lead lap. In general, though, the lap traffic, you kind of have to just sort of call a lane and hope that they're not going to go in the one that you want, and then just kind of work your way around them methodically.
And you have to think about this, too, with guys like Haynes. He wasn't at Las Vegas last week. This is his first race of the season. But there's a big wreck on the front stretch. Caution flag is out for the first time. And we have a car in the grass. That is Frank Keychok. That is amongst the drivers that have spun around for the caution. We'll have to take a look at the GSRC replay here, Christian, because it looks like a couple drivers got tangled up.
Yeah, it looked like Engelman was kind of trying to run the top, and he just got in the wall a little bit, and kind of, when he got bounced off, it came and took the 55 with him.
And he had been going backwards since really about lap 3, and that time, unfortunately, collects the 55 as he ping-ponged off the wall and into the grass. So caution flag is out for the first time. Everyone trying to catch up to the pace car. Here's another quick look, though, from Chatley's view.
He's very lucky not to be in that himself there.
Indeed, as the caution flag means pit stops here, and with this being a high tire wear track, and of course, already a lot of laps already recorded, about 20 laps or so, 4 tires and fuel look to be the strategy, no?
Yeah, especially this early in the race, I expect we'll see everybody, and I believe we have seen everybody come down and take 4. It's not quite as clear-cut towards the end of the race, especially when, say, there's about 25 to go. I think we'll see some variance in people staying out, or maybe people taking 2. But for sure, at the beginning of the race, definitely everybody down for 4.
Alan Dobbs got the free pass with the caution flag. Hawley came out of the pit lane first. As you see, the rest of the drivers come down the backstretch now. Behind them, Ketchum, Telez, Carroll, and Clark round out the top 5 out of the pit lane. Still 105 laps to go. And now this leads to a question. Of course, there's the theory of caution, breed cautions here at this racetrack, Christian, but what's kind of the strategy from here, say if we have some of those quickie yellows that might happen on some of the crazy restarts potentially tonight?
Well, I think if you are running in, say, the top 10 and there is a quick caution after, say, 3 to 4 laps, I think you definitely stay out. I think if you're running in, say, 20th to 25th, you pit every single time. You've got nothing to lose. You're only going to gain, and if it does then work out to be a long run and say you've got 10 lap fresher tires than the guys ahead of you, it's going to work out really well for you. So I expect with quick yellows, we'll see a little bit of strategy variance. I think anything over a 15 to 20 lap run, we're going to see everybody pit anyway.
I think potentially as well, have to definitely agree. We'll definitely see these cars at least more than once potentially tonight if we continue to go along. But 103 laps to go this upcoming time by, already onto lap 22 of 125 here. But I'm really impressed with what we've quickly seen already from Hawley, with some good speed already in the race. Ketchum already looking fairly well. Boldly got to the bottom side in the first place, and now they're going to be 1-2 for this restart.
Yeah, and to be honest, I've been impressed with everybody on the initial start of the race. I kind of expected we might see a little bit of contact and so on, but everybody handled it really well. And I think if we see the same again, where everybody in the top 10 kind of filters to single file immediately, then I think Hawley's got a really good opportunity to just manage and control this race. It's, as we said, it's so hard to get past. And especially if you're the leader, you got clean air and you can kind of run your own pace. The only thing that could really stop him is lap traffic.
1 to go now for the leaders now as they get all set to go for the restart here. But real quickly, how important is that clean air? How much of a time difference do you think that will be as the race progresses?
It's really hard to kind of quantify it as a time difference, but it definitely makes it difficult to stay with the car ahead of you, and because of that, it's difficult to take advantage of any mistakes they might make, and that only gets larger the longer the run goes.
Hawley's all set to go to start this green flag run. Green flag's up on the stand. Hawley's onto the gas and a good jump. Gets him up by 2.5 car lengths into turn 1. Ketchum dives his way to the bottom side. Telez holds on to the bottom side as well. Well, Carroll pinches his way on the outside of Clark to secure 4th. Getting to the side-by-side battle for P3.
It's an aggressive move, but definitely worked out well for him.
Still fighting hard they are for P number 3, side-by-side behind them as well for 5th position. Colton Laneway in a spot behind them, while Telez trying to defend on the bottom side. Carroll quickly trying to use the top side here in the very short run here, but the caution flag is out. It's in turns 3 and 4. Just outside the top 10, a couple cars involved. Dobbs spun around. Brandon Walter also spun in the banking.
Yeah, looked like we had a stack up going into 3 there.
Yeah, that's Rachel Hunt that made the contact to cause the stack up. Again, that is Walter that went around, contact with Rachel Hunt, a second driver at the back of the field, and Dobbs had also went around outside of the carnage whenever he had been the lucky dog and had just spun around on his own just as the caution came out. Here's a take a look, though, from Holden, who ran over the back of the 09. Wow.
It's unfortunate for him there to really get involved. He was quite significantly behind the initial wreck there. It's a bit of a shame for him to lose his nose like that.
How bad is damage at Richmond, in your opinion? I mean, we've seen the aerodynamic importance with these cars this season, but how important is it to keep a clean car at Richmond?
Well, the thing with Richmond is that it is a short track, but it's a very fast short track. So the aero is very important around here, and that's definitely going to hurt. Any kind of aero damage at any track is bad, but around here, as we were saying, if you can feel aero push, then there's definitely a big aero dependency. So I think that's going to really hurt him.
Especially with no front nose, and the driver he ran over the back end of, that was Hickenbottom, by the way. Now having a big shot towards the back end. Again, back under caution here, under 100 laps to go. About 16 minutes already burned off the timer, we should note. So there's still a ways to go here for the racing action here. But we've seen some bold moves just before the caution flag. We've seen Carroll trying to make the high side work. We also seen Lane wanting to fight for 5th position right as the yellow flag came out.
Yeah, and we saw that Tellez kind of got caught out a little bit on that restart. I don't think he was expecting it to be as aggressive as it was up there, and kind of slipped back a little bit. So it'll be interesting to see if he approaches this restart any differently than the last one.
See him now in the 3rd position in the number 24 machine, sponsored by Integrity Digital here, but he's looked pretty good so far. Should note the fastest times of the day so far have only been in the 20 flats. But I'm curious again how this is going to go for the rest of the way. Still a ways to go in this one. But most of the drivers that start inside the top 10, except for Chatley, started in the top 10.
And that really kind of comes back to how hard we were saying it is to pass here. And actually kind of surprised that Chatley is managed to move up as high as he has in his fewer green laps as we've had right here. He's up 5 spots from 12th and 7th right now.
The biggest mover, for reference sake, has been Pat Harvey, who started at the rear end of the field as one of the drivers not to record a time, plus 12 in 16th. Behind him, Justin Hurst, 19. He is a plus 11. Biggest dropper so far has been Robert Engelman, who had been spun around, who put himself off the wall and into the grass to bring up the first yellow flag. But either way, 1 to go until the restart, Christian.
Yeah, and we've still kind of got a couple of guys I'd expect to be running a little bit better than they are right now. Kind of mired in the mid-pack. Rob Haynes is one of them. We saw him go around near the beginning, but he's currently running 18th. We've also got a couple of the other regulars near him, Charles Sumner's, and in 15th he's up about 7 spots right now, so they are making progress. It's just taking them a little bit longer than maybe they probably thought.
Pace car off the racetrack as they go through 3 and 4 to the restart zone. Holly back in control of field, hits the gas pedal. We're back to racing at Richmond. And a good jump again for the top 2 positions, but again, Carroll trying to use the high side in the 22 Troop Logger machine. Just like last time, just a bit differently than last time, I should say, though Carroll, not able to make the high side work, gets back to the bottom a lap sooner than the time before.
Yeah, it kind of looked like everybody was a bit more on point with that restart, and it got all single file very, very quickly there.
Should note we did see the 25 machine of Cervantes Moreno duck down to the pit lane. But right now, much of the top 10 already quickly to single file, trying to keep it nice and calm. They have about 40 minutes to complete the racing action here and try and keep the cars clean. Already 33 laps about to be in the books with 92 laps to go.
Yeah, and especially this kind of beginning of the run, the biggest thing for the guys inside the top 10 is to kind of stay consistent in terms of that line. And with everybody being close together, now is the time where you really don't want to make any mistakes. You don't want to give anybody any opportunities to try and pass you, as we see. The 96 kind of looked like he didn't really defend right there, and now he's coming under fire, coming into 1.
All the way back around 10th position. He said he brought a car with the paint scheme to gain the attention of another director, I believe was the exact words he had said. As he's trying to hold on to the high side, trying to pass Eric Roberts. Roberts sends it hard on the bottom side, forced to check up though as Morgan squishes him back down. Opens up the door for the 17 of Paul M. Johnson to battle now for the 11th position.
Yeah, and that's the other thing with passing here is that if you we got a yellow.
And a couple cars in the back stacking up around 24th position. And guys like Craig Holden no longer have motors. Caution flag is out in turn 1. And again, this was at the back of the field, Christian, on this GSRC replay.
Yeah, I didn't get to see it live, but I kind of always a bit upset when I see yellows coming out near the back. But I do appreciate the guys with damaged cars. Yeah, it just looked like he kind of got away from him right on entry, and that is very easy to do. Turn 1 is a very, very difficult corner.
And it looked like he almost had a late break and nearly ran over the back end of Walter, which forced him a bit loose there. But for Holden, he had no idea that was coming.
Yeah, he just kind of saw the car appear from the wall at the bottom right there. And the thing with these cars that I think is hard to appreciate when you're just watching is that once you've set your line for the corner, it's like you've done all you can. And if something then happens to appear in your line, there is nothing you can do. You've set your line, the car is going there no matter what. And generally, if you try and steer it off that line, you're going to crash yourself anyway. So it gives rise to these interesting kind of wrecks where you're like, okay, well, how did the guy kind of end up driving into him? And it's because he'd already turned, he'd already set his line, and that's just how that works out. And it's horrible when it happens to you, and I really feel bad for Holden on that one.
And nothing else I really think he could have done there, knowing that what was going on. But here's another interesting wrinkle. With the short run, 2 drivers took 2 tires. McLaren in the blue car, and Mitchell Clark, the new race leader, also took 2 tires here. We also seen Haynes take 2 to move himself up to 11, so strategy coming out here with the short run.
Yeah, I definitely think that's a good move for Haynes. He needed some track position from where he was. I'm a little bit skeptical with the front 2. I didn't really see enough from Clark to make me think that he's going to be able to hold onto that lead, but it might be different when he's out there and he's got clean track in front of him. He might be able to run a better pace than he has been before.
What's the difference in handling, in your opinion, on 2 tires compared to 4? Because prior to this package, there was opinions on it making it loose. The opinions, at least from I've heard from a lot of drivers, is it makes it tighter. What's your opinion on that?
I would definitely agree that it makes it tighter. I think on the low downforce package, the concern was always that it was going to make it really loose. And it generally it did. There was a couple of times where it went against that, but usually it made it really loose. And now with this higher downforce package, it tends to go the opposite way. And we're really leaning on the right front a lot, so it definitely makes it tight. And I think that's kind of given a bit more incentive for people to give this 2-tire option a go, I should say. Just because there isn't the big concern that you're going to have a spin as soon as you get to the corner.
But I think the concern, though, is, too, we've seen drivers actually plow up into the wall here. Do you think there's a concern of that potentially happening since it's now going to be a bit more tighter now for these drivers as they get the one-to-go signal coming up here in a moment or so?
Well, the difficult thing when it comes to a 2-tire stop is it's really hard to predict how your car's going to handle when you get to the first corner. And the reason for that is because you can't really practice it. You can say do a couple of lap runs in practice and then change 2, but it's never quite the same because you can never match the exact amount of laps you did on the initial set of tires and so on. And you just have to really be careful and do as good a job as you can of anticipating how much grip you're going to have and just really kind of try and keep the car on line. I expect we might see a little bit of a stack up here.
We'll see what happens here if we get the stack up. But what happens otherwise? Green flag is out. Clark with a good jump. Not a good of a jump, though, from McLaren on the outside line. Hawley already to the bottom side, trying to fight for second position. McLaren gives him the position, but a much better run off the corner for the 4 tires compared to the 2. Well, cars stack up behind him. Around goes Carroll, holds on to it. Lane avoids the barriers, but Lane gets hit a second time as they all save it.
That was an epic save by Carroll. It was his aggressive move that kind of put him in that position, but he was sideways all the way from entry to 3 to exit to 4.
Yeah, he got a bit of a shot, it looked like, from the back end of one of the cars and ended up holding on. And he's still in the top 10, mind you, with just a little bit of left rear damage on the car. Now, it's a matter of, will we keep it clean that way? As this is all going on, McLaren's already going backwards on the 2 tires. Tellez quickly made quick work of him for P number 3. Clark's already lost the lead to Bradley Hawley, while Tellez is already looking much quicker on corner exit compared to the drivers on 2.
Yeah, the biggest difference is definitely going to be in center roll with the guys who took 2 tires. They're probably going to lose out a little bit on exit speed just because they're having to park it a bit more in the center. And it's the first 5 or so laps that really make the difference for those 2 tire guys. And if they can make it to 10 laps in the run and they haven't lost kind of more than they had before they made that decision, they should be okay.
And there's a difference, too, between the 2 drivers up at the front that took the 2 tires. Clark is only about a 10th or so off the drivers on 4 tires now as Gain recovered back. McLaren, he's been as slow as up to half a second a lap in some cases. He's a 10th of a second slower than even Clark right now.
And that kind of comes back to what I was saying about anticipating the grip, and I guess Clark's doing a better job of it than McLaren is right now.
McLaren having to let off a lot on the center of 3 and 4. Allows Chatley now within a car length on the back bumper. Can't get it quite of a run yet to make a move, but there's the chance again of drivers like Ketchum, Johnson to potentially make some moves if the bottom side opens up. With all the drivers on 2 tires, though, it's allowed Bradley Hawley to now pull away by 1.1 seconds and growing for the race lead in the clean air.
I think we kind of always expected that Hawley was probably going to get back to the lead pretty quickly, but definitely this is helping him a lot because he has that car and 2 behind him, and it's allowing him to build a really big gap. And if this goes green, I don't see how anybody's going to catch him.
Let's swing back towards McLaren because the passes I was referring to, Chatley's already made 1. There was nearly a second, but Ketchum and Johnson nearly tangled up a little bit on one of the corner entries. Johnson lost 4 car lengths as a result. Ketchum lost 2 car lengths on a bit of a kerfluffle on one of the corner entries.
Yeah, and that's kind of where it comes in again with the whole passing and how difficult it is. And if there is kind of anything that goes on and it kind of checks people up, it brings other people into play, and you've got to be really, really assertive with your passes here, and you've got to get them done as quick as you can.
Especially since at a short track like this, it could take multiple laps to plan the pass.
Yeah, for sure. You've got to really kind of figure out where your opponent's weak and where you're strong, and the key is really minimizing the sort of the area where he might be better than you or equal to you, and if you can stay close to him through that zone, and then when you get to the part where you're a lot stronger, then that's when you kind of have to really press and go for your move.
73 laps to go this past time by as Hawley rolls the lead at 1.3 seconds. As you look at the group still with drivers with old tires, this has bunched up a lot of drivers. Some of the cars that lost a few tenths of a second or a couple seconds in total from that stack up with Carroll, they're back at the rear end of drivers like Johnson. You're following on the nose of Johnson as he tries to keep up with Ketchum while they try and continue to gain time. It looks like, though, McLaren's evened out a little bit. Some of the tires have equalized, it looks like, on the drivers who took 2.
Yeah, I was just actually noticing that Mitchell Clark looks like he's running a decent pace now. He does have Tellez right on him, and Tellez is going for a move in a 1 right here. It looks like Clark's actually just kind of let him go. He's pretty smart, really. He knows he's maybe not got the same pace as Tellez has right now, so probably better to kind of manage his own race and hold on to that 3rd whilst there's a bit of a fight going on behind him.
Yeah, that, just taking a quick look back on my end of that, looks like that Clark just let by Tellez, knowing he had a bit more pace. Right now, the leader running 27s, much of the field in the 20.8s and 9s still, for reference sake, as they try and keep up the gap as 2.1 seconds. This time by about a 10th slower this time for Hawley. Tellez, after getting the bottom side for the pass, away at 20.9, so Hawley a 10th of a second quicker than drivers such as these 2. These 2 drivers, though, are another 10th or 2 quicker than that group you just seen the backdrop of that's led by Chatley at the moment. Gap between 2nd and 3rd is still 4/10 of a second.
You see McLaren actually looking for a pass here on Chatley.
And it looks like McLaren trying to rim ride the bottom side. Chatley doesn't let off too much, able to keep it side by side. And the Unimut Racing machine on the outside. The Chatmobile loses the position So the two tires of McLaren starting to equalize even more so now. He's back up to 4th.
Yeah, and he's really past that kind of first 5 laps where he's vulnerable, and now you can see that the tires have equalized there. It's still not going to be as good as if he had 4 fresh tires, but it's definitely within play now, I would say.
But this has also forced drivers like Chatley now to the top side, and this is something that can get curious too, because the leaders have reached lap traffic, and they have nearly ran over the back end of some of them. The second place battle that featured Tellez, he nearly ran over the back end of the 53 of Hilton and nearly creamed him. That has allowed Clark to get a run for the battle for second. Can Clark get to the bottom side? Tellez giving him the chance to dive down? No. Tellez keeps the top side and actually gains more speed. This has also opened up the battle behind them, with Johnson still fighting with Chatley.
Yeah, the 53 looks like he's really struggling for pace, and that really messed everybody up right there. He kind of got split as well by this group, and I'm amazed everybody made it through that safely.
And that time, Chatley turns a man. Johnson spun around, caution flag is out. Johnson locks it down, but significant back-end damage as well as a little bit of front-end damage on the right front. Johnson, though, tried to come up in front of Chatley. Chatley didn't let up.
Yeah, I mean, it was tight, but he wasn't clear. I don't know really who to put that on. It's kind of a racing deal that happens a lot here.
Yeah, and it looks like Johnson got loose a little bit there, too, to bobble his way up across the front nose.
Yeah, and that again is how hard it is to get off the corner, and especially if you're side by side and you have that kind of moment, you do need the whole racetrack, and you had a car who was outside and the whole racetrack wasn't available. It just a really unfortunate racing deal right there.
And Nick Ketchum also got a little bit of damage, it looks like, from that, but just avoided what could have been even more than a minor bit of damage. That time, just dodging it to the left side.
Yeah, to be honest, all cars that were involved in that actually got away with that quite nicely. That's usually a huge wreck for the car that gets turned into the wall, but it doesn't really look like he picked up that much damage from it.
Yeah, look, Ketchum's most of his damage is on the back end, we should know, but the caution flag means more pit stops. Hawley, Tellez, Clark, McLaren, Ketchum, the top 5. 2 drivers did stay out this time, it appears, to try and get some bonus points, potentially. McKinney and Hickenbottom ducking down to the lane this time, trying to get the lead lap, it looks like, for their respective cars. But take a quick break. When we come back, we'll have more coverage of the Precision Racing League Cup NASCAR Cup Series for round number 2 from Richmond Raceway on the Global SimRacing Channel. Welcome back to the Global SimRacing Channel's coverage of the PRL Cup Series from Richmond Raceway. Bradley Holly's led a majority of the laps so far, trying to get the most led laps bonus point. He's already got himself some bonus points for being the pole sitter earlier tonight. Like one of the fastest drivers, in fact, the fastest in qualifying. Fastest lap also in his range. He's fastest onto the gas pedal as the green flags back up. 58 laps to go from the action track.
Got much more side-by-side this restart than we've perhaps seen before.
That time a couple cars getting shuffled around. You look from the back end of Holly, trying to gain a bit of a gap in the clean air. Clark is already up to second. Talance has moved himself to third, but they're fighting for fourth on back. Holly already with a 4+ car length advantage as the fight goes on between McLaren and Ketchum for P4. And look who's behind them, though. It's Rob Haynes who's saying hello.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that Haynes has moved his way into contention, and he's making a 3-wide move here down in a 1.
Haynes makes it only 2 wide now as McLaren lets off. Haynes, though, squished down by Ketchum. Ketchum goes up the track, though. They'll stay side by side heading into turn 3.
He's able to kind of scare the 73 out of the 3-wide and gain himself a spot, and now he's going for that 4th.
Looked like he bobbled a bit off of turn 4. Haynes looking to still fight, though, in the established traffic control machine. Trying to use that bottom side. Still a bit of a faster entry. Apex, not able to clear, though. Just at the right rear still is Ketchum.
But he is gaining ground every corner right now, and I thought he was going to be clear off of 2, but he's not quite.
Still fighting hard for P number 4, the highest Haynes has been tonight. Plus 20, one car has ducked down to the pit lane and nearly hit the barriers. And that was one of the drivers inside the top 10, but we stay green as Haynes secures himself P4, plus 20 for the drop of the green flag earlier tonight.
Yeah, and what a comeback he's had, especially having been turned around and nearly being a lap down near the start of the race. So he's got to be happy with where he's running right now, and I feel like the pace he's shown in other races, he can definitely get more than this.
He was the fastest car on the racetrack to that time by in the 20.4 range. Just behind them, a few groups behind this drivers like the 21 machine, who is up towards the front. Guys like Zemke still fighting for position, holding off guys like Colin Carroll. That is looking to recover a little bit from some ups and downs. Does have, again, that left rear damage from some of the contact earlier. He rides behind a side-by-side battle between Johnson and Morgan for what is for P number 16. This is a plus 5 on the lap for Johnson.
And that's a pretty awesome statistic to have right there. I mean, it's hard to pass.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Pardon me. Johnson still a lap down, I should rather say. Pardon me. But he's showing he's still got speed as a lap car, rather.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm wondering if he came down and took 4 on the last stop, and that's kind of maybe got him back on like true pace. It'd be interesting to see if he can kind of hold on to that lucky dog spot, and if we do have another yellow, what he can do actually on the same lap as these guys.
Yeah, it looks like Johnson had finished most of his repairs, if not all of them. And the reason I think we're showing Carroll, though, is the battle for the lucky dog. And that time, the 222 of Justin Hurst goes off the grass. We stay green, though, as Hurst mows the lawn. We'll take a look at this on the GSRC replay.
Yeah, just gassed up and stepped out on him. Good job to kind of get it gathered up before he got in the wall on the inside there, but probably frustrated with that solo car deal.
Couple cars are also still getting loose. Drivers that are looking to not lose positions, though, is the battle for P5. Ketchum amongst the drivers in this mixture of drivers. McLaren looking to move up a spot, currently a car length back and holding on to drivers like Roberts, Lane, and Bisson Jr. in this grouping.
And he's got to be careful here as well, because if he tries to execute... Oh, we've got some contact in 4.
And a couple
Looked like the one car of Katarina was involved.
That was towards the back end of the lead cars. There was a mixture of 5 different drivers in that section. We are still green though. That was contact for 13th with Pat Harvey. But again, we stay green. Harvey is now the lead car in this group, making a move now, trying to at least on Brandon Walter.
That's kind of really got all these guys stacked up back here as well. We've got a bunch of 2 wide and a huge fight really right now for what I think is 12th or 13th place. And everybody ahead has kind of been given a bit of breathing room and can kind of get in their own rhythm now.
Battle is for 13th spot. They also have one of the drivers fighting for the lucky dog. Stuck at the back end of this, Colin Carroll, that driver that's the second car on the top side, makes the move. That's not going to help Harvey, though, as that opens up the door for Zemke.
The biggest issue, I think, for Carroll is that Paul Johnson was ahead of all this and now is way up the racetrack. He's going to be really hard to run down for that lucky dog spot.
Should note that the race leaders are about to reach some more lap traffic. 2 cars about to be reached by Bradley Hawley again to fall some more laps down. Let's head towards Hawley right now. You can see 2 cars in front of him. One of them again is the 25 machine that's had a rough night. Cervantes Moreno. He'll let him on go on the top side. The other driver is Paul Williams the second. He is the last car 1 lap down. Now is the first car 2 laps down as he lets by Hawley.
Hawley's really just in a class of his own right now. He's got almost 2 seconds on Clark in second, and he's got a lot of clear track until his next lap car. I really think it's going to be really hard to beat him tonight.
It might take a bit of strategy because the gap is now 1.95 seconds, give or take, between him and Mitchell Clark. Again, that caution flag had helped him, Clark, get from 2 tires to 4 tires. Meanwhile, the battle's still continuing on for that group again for 5th spot. Ketchum still now holding on to Roberts now with Lane and Bisson Jr. McLaren now lost a few spots and dropped to 9th and is all the way at the back start of the next group of cars.
You didn't see what happened to McLaren, but that's the thing, is that if you make a slight mistake and there's a big line of cars, you're pretty much going to get shuffled all the way to the back of that, so you have to be really careful.
What also doesn't help, McLaren's about 0.2 of a second slower than this group of 4 cars. They're up on your screen. They're about to try and lap Paul Williams the second, though, and the other cars we just seen the race leader pass on by. Williams the second gets out of the way. That forces everyone up to the top side here. Ketchum, though, uses the lap car as a pick, gains a little bit of time on Roberts and Lane.
Yeah, we can see that Lane's kind of... Roberts goes in really deep, and Lane tries to pounce and gets to the bottom. He's going to be there underneath him going into 3 now.
Lane, I should rather say, trying to dive at the bottom side. This is for 6th position. Roberts, though, has still that top side momentum carrying him on the corner exit. And while we've seen the short run, the bottom line being the quicker line, again, we were talking a bit on the long run, top side's the faster line where you can carry more speed, it seems, on that corner exit.
Yeah, you could actually kind of see Bissell there. He's seeing what's going on with Lane and how Lane keeps trying to get to the bottom, keeps trying to execute the pass there. And I think if Lane's not careful here, he's going to find that the next time, we've got a bit of a check up ahead of him. But I think the next time that Lane tries to make that move, if he can't pull it off, he's going to find that he's got no space behind him, and the 97 is going to be on his outside.
Thing is, though, Bisson Jr. lost a little bit of time, forced back to the bottom side as he gets by some of the lap traffic. This has also allowed McLaren to gain a little bit of ground back that he had been losing. So these drivers still single file for now. Question is for how long. By the way, Haynes has now caught the group that's battling for 2nd spot just in front of these cars by 2 seconds. So Haynes now trying to attack Tellez for P3.
Yeah, and it kind of looks like Mitchell Clark might be the stopper there. He keeps losing time to Hawley, and the 2 behind him are really kind of... They want to go, but as we've seen, it's really hard to pass, and the more you fight, the more you bring more people into that fight. And we see Lane just get to the bottom there and just avoid turning Roberts. That was really close.
Again, that was that battle for 6th position. And they were near wheel to wheel. Looks like Lane able to get on by Roberts this time. Roberts tries to cut back down for the crossover. See if he can try and get to the inside. No. Move up Lane to P6 in the 60 machine.
That was a very aggressive move, and it only just about came off. It was so close to Roberts getting turned, but we're kind of at that point. We're lap 96, starting 97 here, so you got to go if you've got more pace, and it's kind of at that point where those kind of moves, you have to them out.
P2 is opened up to Les, able to get right on by Mitchell Clark, using a bit of the lap traffic as a bit of a buffer. Clark had to let off the gas with the 70 machine on the bottom side. Haynes also was able to get on by, so moved Clark all the way back to P4 with some of the traffic factoring in. Again, the 70 machine on the bottom side forced a bit of a slower exit from Clark, it looked like. You can see Christian not just open up the bottom for the rest of the cars.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You got to make sure you don't get shuffled, because as soon as one guy figures a way to pass you, if you've got others in close proximity like he did right there, they just pounce. And like I was saying right before that, was so close.
Oh, trouble! One of the lap cars spun around the 25 again. Caution flag is out. And someone ran into the back end of Cervantes Moreno that time. It looks like that was Bisad Jr. that moved him up and out of the way. And Bisad Jr. had just got in contact, it looks like, to lose himself some time with the back end of McLaren.
Yeah, but like McLaren kind of just sort of shunted him right there. And then he was all out of sorts and got into Moreno going down into the corner. It's unfortunate for Moreno. He wasn't really doing anything other than trying to kind of stay out of the way.
Yeah, we'll have to take an arrow look at this one. There was all right cars on the bottom side. See, one of the onboard shots. This is from some of the shuffling and cars trying to get right on by. And then you see Bisa slow down, sees a lap car, says, "Hello, my caution." So, gonna have to be seen if that leads to a bit of an investigation, as that brings the caution flag, and Bisad Jr. only falls to 11th as a result.
Yeah, it's actually kind of a little bit fortunate for Bisad there that he wasn't. Well, it's fortunate he wasn't turned around in his initial kind of contact with McLaren, but even more so then that he didn't pick up damage with that incident with Moreno there. So it's okay. It's not great for him. He lost some track position before that, but he's actually come out of that better than he might have otherwise.
That has also led to drivers back on fresh tires here, which means everyone will get behind the pace car after coming to the pit lane. Holly, once again, though, is the race leader. Holland Johnson didn't even cycle to the race lead after staying that time by. Now ducks down this time by. So 24 laps to go, and it could be tight for the timer, though. We were talking about this during the commercial break about 15 minutes ago. We're just under 15 minutes left to go on the official race event timer.
Yeah, I do think it will be close, but if it goes green from here, then it'll probably get it in, actually. But definitely if we have more yellows, which I think is highly possible, especially we're at lap 102 right now, and we've seen that everybody's kind of amped up the aggression. And the interesting thing for me on this restart is that Rob Haynes is starting third, and it is not in Bradley Holly's interest to get that car into second, to try and maybe run him down for the end of this.
What do you try and do to make sure he doesn't get to second?
I think his best option is to kind of hold the restart as long as he can. That way then Tellez might be on his outside, which might sound dangerous going into one, but coming off the corner, I'd expect Holly to clear him, but then Tellez would potentially either have a gap to slot in, or at the very least be on the outside of Haynes and kind of maybe fight him and hold him up just a little bit to let Holly get out front.
And approaching 22 laps to go this time by. We've already gone through 102 in total, 103 about to be in the books. And it's tight still on the time. 12 minutes and 30 seconds to be precise, meaning that can mean a lot more urgency here for some of the cars. We'll have to wait and see what some of the drivers do as we get the 1 to go signal here, Christian.
Yeah, and the guy I was actually looking out for, they got the lucky dog, Paul Johnson, is now back on the lead lap, so it'll be interesting to see what he can do from the back of the field and if he can get forwards. I definitely think that there's the potential for a huge fight at the front here between Haynes and Hawley, if Haynes can get clear and get into second.
Johnson's back in the lead lap, by the way, in 21st position. Carroll just took the wave to also join him to 22nd, so 22 cars are on the lead lap for the final 21 laps from Richmond. Will they make it to the timer, or will they get the checker flag? We're about to find out. Hawley goes early this time, way early as the green flag's out. Haynes already side by side for P2. Tellez trying to hold on to the top side while Haynes tries to rim right along the yellow line.
And Haynes is going to be clear going into 3 here, I think, and that's probably not what Hawley wanted, but we'll have to see if Haynes can actually do anything now that he's got the track position.
Tellez falls back to 3rd. Ketchum, though, wants a piece of Colton Lane. On the high side, Lane tries to push up a slight touch. Nearly clips the apron, but able to clear on the bottom side. Ketchum nearly taps the wall. Well, one car gets loose off the corner down the straightaway. Zemke nearly hit the inside wall, and we stay green.
Yeah, and Roberts had a huge moment as well, but was able to gather it up and keep his track position, but now he's under pressure from McLaren.
And we'll head back towards that battle. That's for P6 right now. Roberts pulling a bit of ground now on McLaren. But now this is going to get curiously interesting. 18 to go. Not a lot of time to make it to the checker flag before the timer. And everyone trying to get their best points finish they can at this point. Drivers like Rachel Hunt amongst them. Has had an up and down day. Wants to go up to P8 this time. Has to back off. She's plus 12 for the drop of the green flag.
Yeah, it's actually really nearly made that move work, but just grabbed the apron late in the corner and kind of had to go chasing the car. And it's fortunate there's enough space to do that, but yeah, both LaBeouf and Rachel, they're both going for it, and they both might be able to get a little bit higher if they can kind of get some consistency and catch.
And caution
got another
flag.
yellow.
Caution down the backstretch. And Justin Hurst this time brings it out. Gonna be even more tighter now as he got loose off the backstretch, as you'll see on the GSRC replay, Christian.
Yeah, it's an easy thing to do, but looks kind of like maybe he was in a bit of a fight, and that might have had an influence on that.
You can see on official number 222 rather. Well, the Joey Logano paint scheme ends up crushing the front nose a little bit. So that brings out the caution flag once more and bunches back up the field with 15 to go. Nobody ducked down the pit lane, though, inside the top 10, though, with just a tiny bit amount of time on the timer.
Yeah, I think that's smart, really. You've only got probably about 12 to 13 laps under green here, if it goes green, and we're under 10 minutes on the timer as well. I think you kind of have to go and keep your track position at this point. The guys at the back, though, they've got nothing to lose. I wouldn't be surprised to see a couple of those guys coming down and being really quick and aggressive trying to cut through now.
And now with there being, give or take, about 9 minutes or so on timer at this point, there's not a lot of time first off to finish, and there's not a lot of time for, say, a potential green light checkered situation. What do you expect some of these drivers to do, especially with just little amount of laps to go, little amount of time to do it, to make a pass for the win?
Well, I think any kind of mistake that you see is going to just be absolutely pounced upon at this point. You just can't wait. You can't really give people the opportunity to gather it up. If you see a mistake and there's a line open, you've got to try and pull that pass, because even if maybe you don't complete the pass, if perhaps you just maybe nose ahead and then there's something else goes on, another yellow comes out, which I think is fairly likely, then you've gained another spot, and you just have to be that aggressive, especially towards the end of these races on these short tracks.
And Haynes was being aggressive too. Just before that caution flag was about to bring up, he was faster than Hawley in second position. We've only seen really the fastest lap not come from Hawley during a run, maybe 3 or 4 times all night.
Yeah, I did suspect that with Haynes getting through up to second that he might be able to challenge, and I think it was a little bit unfortunate that we didn't get to see that go green, and now I actually think Haynes is perhaps in a worse position because he's going to restart second, and we've seen Holly get these big jumps on all these restarts, and now it's kind of going to be role reversal between Tellez and Haynes, and maybe Tellez can kind of get back past, and then I think that'll kind of really end any hopes that Haynes has.
Absolutely. There's 22 cars on the lead lap, by the way. No wave around cars as no one ducked down to the pit lane here with so much little time left to go here at Richmond. 12 laps to go this time by as they still line up behind the iRacing pace car. So far, though, we've only seen a couple of DNFs. Holden was able to get some of the engine damage repaired and make it back on the racetrack. He's 5 laps down, for example. Peacock is 15 laps down. He stays on the racetrack. Cervantes Moreno, 16 laps down, still on the racetrack. Only DNFs, Chatley, Hilton, and Engelman. In this race, they are 39 laps down or more so. 1 to go signal for the drivers left. 22 drivers looking to fight for the victory on the lead lap.
And the other thing that we've got is that we've got a lot of guys out here now on a fairly old set of tires, and there could be some wheel spin here, and there's something definitely to watch for.
The amount of wheel spin could be significant. We'll have to see who avoids the significant part. Holly, as soon as the pace car drops, hits the loud pedal green flag. McLaren had a ton of wheel spin at the back part of the top 10. Bunched up everyone and then some of the bottom side. Haynes already up to second.
Yeah, McLaren was in pretty much the worst place to have that restart. He was right on the corner exit, and he looked like he just couldn't get it to go.
That dropped McLaren all the way back to 10th position, behind drivers such as the 60 machine. Still a ways to go, some of the battling shaping up for P4 rather, behind Colton Lane. Ketchum fighting with Tellez with under 9 laps to go this time by. Trying to fight for a top 5 position. Eric Roberts looking for a chance to pounce. 9 to go at the stripe.
It's a big move by Ketchum, and he's not really been able to complete it yet. He's going to be under fire from Roberts if he can't get this done soon.
And Tellez trying to charge it hard on the top side. Using a bit of the higher ground on the banking. Can't get the corner exit though. Gets momentum though off the run. Ketchum tries to play defense. Fighting hard again for P number 4. That time by, Tellez got the spot. This time by, Tellez gets clear. But Ketchum shuts the door while Roberts pulls the crossover.
Yeah, it was very, very tight. There was literally just a car length there for him to slot in, and it was dangerous, but Ketchum had to do that. If he'd have left that top open, he was going to lose another spot.
Yeah, you don't want to open up the revolving door this late. But the leaders have pulled away by about a few car lengths away from Lane. Holly and Haynes trying to decide it. You look on board with the 29 machine. Plus 22 from the drop of the green flag. Wants one more spot. Coming up 5 laps to go this time by. Looking to try to pounce on Holly. Was faster than him last time by.
Yeah, and he looked really good off the 4 last time as well. It'll be interesting to see if he can keep that up. If he can, that's going to be his opportunity, I think.
Closing in towards the checker flag and the timer. Haynes tries to set it aggressive on the bottom side. Can't get to the back bumper of Holly yet. Loses a car length on the corner exit. Coming out to 4 to go at Richmond. Haynes was the fastest car last time by yet again by a couple 100ths. As Holly pulls the gap a little bit, still up by 0.2 of a second with under 4 to go.
And this is really about mistakes from Holly at this point. It's going to be really hard for Haynes to get a proper run on him, so he's got to try and force a mistake from Holly that'll give him the opportunity.
And with 3 laps to go, do you see him using the bumper here in the early portion of the season?
I don't think so, to be honest. I've seen these guys race a good bit now, and it's not really their style, but you can never truly say it's always different, and sometimes it's worth it, you know?
And it looks like this time Holly, for the past 2 laps in the cleaner air, looking a bit more comfortable with 2 laps to go, a lap and a half left. Haynes is now losing a lot of ground on the corner exits. Holly looking to see the white flag up at the stand at Richmond. If we get the white flag, the race is official. Caution comes out on the backstretch just before the white flag. We'll get one green-white checker to finish this if we have enough time on the timer. B-Sod Jr. smoking on the backstretch, Christian.
Yeah, it was right before the line as well. They were just coming off a 4 when the yellow came out, so that was basically as late as that could possibly be. I don't know if we're going to get a green-white checkered. I'm assuming we're going to get at least a one-lap shootout.
You can see on the replay, this was contact with the 67 machine. And that's the second time that the 67 has been involved in contact like that tonight. That's Pat Harvey.
Yeah, it's near the end of the race, and yeah, he was trying to get what he got, and he just got loose, and there's just not enough space off it too.
And in the end, that finish, that puts us under caution for a potential green-white checkered here. Only one attempt. They were just about to reach the white flag, too, by just 10 feet. 10 more feet. Holly is potentially already celebrating in victory lane. Now Haynes has one last chance.
Yeah, that couldn't really be any more cruel for Holly. He'd got it done. I couldn't see how Haynes was going to get back to him, and right as he was coming to get the one to go, the yellow came out. So I still think he's in the commanding position, because if it does go green and we do get a one lap or maybe even a true green white checkered here, then he's got the jump on the initial restart, and I still think it's his to lose, but it's just one more thing that he wouldn't have had to deal with, you know.
The timer is down to its final seconds, by the way. So there's a chance Holly might have just won this thing regardless. It's closing down to the final couple seconds on the timer. Remember, a 1 hour limit for this series. There's a chance we don't even get to the green-white checkered here as it reaches its way towards the final seconds. And it looks like we might have just seen that potentially happen. We'll see if we get the checker flag. If we do, it will be back-to-back wins for Holly. It's either that or a green-white checker. Towards the start and finish line they go behind the iRacing pace car. And not quite yet. Should note we did apparently, I believe, reach the final seconds of the timer here, Christian.
Yeah, I believe because the yellow came out whilst we still had time left on the clock, and that it already kind of went to the green-white checkered, that we will actually get a restart here. Whether it's a one lap or a 2 lap, though, that's the bit that's up for debate.
This is going to be interesting now because... And drivers are asking the same thing, honestly, right now in the race. Communications amongst each other. This is going to get interesting here. But we'll see what they do this time by. If we get the green-white checkered, what do you do if you're Rob?
There's not really much you can do. I think, to be honest, it's actually more about him defending that second spot at this point. I don't see how he can get any kind of run. I just think he's fighting for second, and Colton Lane's going to be really aggressive for sure, especially if he gets a good jump. So I think the win is gone for Haynes, but second or third is kind of gonna be his play here.
Lights are out on top of the pace car, and it looks like the drivers have doubled up. It looks like they will allow them, with the timer expired, to run the green-white checkered. So this race is still up for grabs. Drivers are realizing this, getting double file. Pace car is off. 2 laps allowed to decide it. Holly reaches the green flag to try and secure the win at Richmond.
Haynes is getting to his bumper.
Haynes gives him a shot. Not enough to loose him up, though, with the downforce. Holly still holding on. Haynes trying to give him one last shot. Doesn't get him to the one. Heading towards the final corner. Still fighting hard. Hearing checker flag is up at the stand. Checker flag appears to be out in a bizarre finish to this one for race number 2 of the season. Bradley Holly has secured the checker flag at Richmond.
There was definitely an opportunity for Haynes to get to him, and he was there, and I think he really thought about moving him into 3, and just at the last second decided against it.
So that is an interesting way to finish this. A one-lap shootout is what we ended up with, it appears here, in a bizarre finish. But Bradley Hawley, regardless, was the fastest car all night long, led a majority of the laps. It's burnout time. His second victory already on the season as his teammates give him shots.
And he did a great job. I mean, he was pretty much uncontested for the whole event until Haynes got there at the end, so definitely a well-deserved victory.
Indeed, and you can see Haynes is even getting into the celebration as well as the winner gets off the track. But with that, we'll go to break. When we come back, we'll have your post-race coverage and race results for tonight's coverage of the PRL NASCAR Cup Series from Richmond Raceway. You're watching the Global SimRacing Channel from Richmond, Virginia. Welcome back, everyone, to Richmond Raceway for more coverage of the PRL NASCAR Cup Series. After a bizarre finish to this one, a one-lap shootout to finish it at the dying stages of the timer. And tonight's 125-lap race, 131 in total, were turned around by the chime of the checker flag. Let's take a look at your unofficial race results, where we've seen Bradley Hawley win back-to-back races to start the season. He won the race by 1/10 of a second over Rob Haynes. Haynes was just telling Hawley amongst the race drivers, if I could have got to your bumper in turn 3, it might have been a different result. Colton Lane finished in 3rd. We'll talk to those drivers and the conclusion of these results. Finishing in 4th was Telez. Right at the top 5, Nick Ketchum. He started on the outside front row. In 6th spot, it was Eric Roberts with Mitchell Clark and John LaBaff. Inside the top 8, Charles Sumner had a quiet day today, but the quietness led him to the 9th position. Started 22nd at the drop of the green flag. McLaren rounded out the top 10. Remember, had a ton of wheel spin on the second to last restart of the day, Christian.
And then we got Adam Zemke and Colin Carroll. Both of those probably a little bit disappointed. Started 5th and 6th, finished 11th and 12th here. Mike Caterino, my pick to get into the top 10. Didn't quite make it, came home 13th with Brandon Walter in 14th. Then we got Scott McKinney, Jared Morgan, Damaris Hickenbottom, Justin Hurst, and Paul Williams II. Rounding out down to 19th, and Pat Harvey picked up 8 spots, came home 20th.
Paul M. Johnson finished 21st, was inside the top 10 at one point. Rachel Hunt, a rough night. had gained some track position in the end, though finished 22nd. The rest of the drivers 4 laps down or more. Alan Dobbs finished 4 laps down, 23rd. Craig Holden 5 laps down after getting engine repairs. Robert Bisson Jr. finished in the pit lane after bringing out the caution flag that led to the 1-lap shootout and bizarreness. Pete Chalk finished in 26th, 15 laps down. Cervantes Moreno had a rough night. Was starting in 14th, involved in a couple of incidents this evening, finished 27th. Chatley 28th, Hilton 29th, rounding up the top 30 after a top 10 start and a rough run to the checkered flag and rough run on the long run. Engelman after hitting the inside wall at one point. That's a look at your unofficial race results for the 30 drivers that entered tonight. But the man who conquered them all was Bradley Hawley for his 2nd straight win to start the season. Bradley, crazy race, but dominant run for you. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good. That was definitely a bit of a confusing finish, but all in all, it was a good race for Waterback and the Ford Mustang with Star Title.
I was going to ask with that, there was honestly a bit of confusion up here as well. With the timer running towards its end, a 1-lap shootout, and then on top of that, once we got the 1-lap shootout, Rob Haynes thinking of giving the bumper there or trying to get there twice. What was going through your head as you were trying to hold him up for that 1-lap shootout?
Well, I had a feeling he was going to try to use the bumper at the end of there, so I tried to just make the car as tight as I could in case he did use the bumper and try to loosen me up, so it didn't affect me too much.
How did you have such a good car tonight, though? Because you looked comfortable most of the evening, had the fastest laps much of the night, and got to as much as 2 to 3 seconds in the lead when we had longer green flag runs.
Throughout the week, I just ran some practice laps here and there, tried to figure out what I needed to do to be the fastest and be up front the entire night. And I mean, I felt comfortable. I got in a rhythm and just set sail.
Now, of course, this is unofficially your 2nd straight victory running on the season, but the next race, we're at the Charlotte Roval, which includes that new chicane down the backstretch replacing the bus stop. Your thoughts on the Roval?
Roval is going to be another fun one. I mean, like we saw last year in the actual Monster Energy Cup Series, it was an interesting race. So I think it's going to be the same thing for the PRL.
Is there anyone you want to thank for being a part of your 2nd straight victory on the campaign?
I'd like to thank Waterback, everybody, great group of guys that I love racing with, and North Star Title for sponsoring me, and y'all for broadcasting. Thank y'all very much.
Congratulations on the victory tonight, a dominating performance.
Thank you very much.
Bradley Hawley taking the checker flag for the 2nd straight week to start the season. The man who finished 2nd tonight was Rob Haynes. He's standing by with Christian Chowder after going 22 positive positions from the start.
Rob, the start and the end of the race couldn't really be more different for you, I don't think. I mean, we saw you started 24th, probably not where you wanted to be. Then you were spun around early, but you made it back and you nearly had the win right there. I mean, how did you come back from the start of the race and to get there and be contending at the end?
Yeah, I had a bit of a mishap there on qualifying, and man, it's tough starting back there. I ended up picking up some damage early, and I know my spoiler there was bent for most of the race, but just staying out of trouble. A couple of pit stops there, made some positions. Pit strategy there about halfway through the race. I took 2 tires, and that got me in the top 10, so I knew from there, as long as I could get another caution, I'd be in good shape, and it fell right when I needed it. So, man, guys, if I could have gotten to Bradley's bumper in 3 and 4 there, I would have. I tapped him a little bit in 1 and 2, and I kind of wish I had got him just a little bit more and got a bit of a better run off too. But congrats out to Bradley and Colton for good racing there, man.
Yeah, I mean, you said about the 2-tire call, and that definitely did gain you a lot of track position, and kind of from that point forwards, once you were kind of maybe racing around the kind of guys that you're normally used to towards the front of the field, it looked like you were able to pick through the field a little bit easier, and then at the end we were kind of debating what you were going to be able to do on those restarts, and it looked like you managed them really, really well, especially starting from second. I kind of felt like at the end there that was maybe not where you wanted to be, that actually third might have been better, but you did a great job. And like you say, you were definitely very, very close to his bumper. And would you have been happy to win by moving him out of the way?
In 3 and 4 on the last lap, Christian, yeah, man, I'd have been happy. You guys watch me race week in, week out, and I'm methodical. I'm a bit OCD about how I get around guys, and yeah, last lap, turn 3. If I could have got to Brad's bumper, yeah, I'd have just bumped him. I wouldn't cause him to spin or anything, but if I could have got to his bumper, Christian, that's the problem, man. With Brad, it's hard to get there. So had a shot in one going into one there, and didn't work out, and tried again in 3, and I just couldn't get to his bumper. He's a fast racer, and appreciate what he does on track.
Yeah, from our perspective, there was pretty much no gap at all. You were so close, and I mean, regardless of not being able to take home the win, it was definitely an awesome performance, and you made the race really exciting for us. And is there anybody you'd like to thank before we let you go here?
Yeah, of course, you guys in the booth, the fans who are watching, I hope they enjoyed the race. GSRC and PRL, Back Racing, and I'm sure I'm going to miss a whole bunch, but I'm a little bit pumped right now, and had fun coming from the back of the pack there. Man, good finish here. I missed the first race, so this will hopefully help out in the points a little bit.
All right, well, good luck for the Roval next week.
Oh boy, the Roval. Thanks, guys.
That was Rob Haynes coming away second tonight, started all the way back in 24th. But the man who came away in third tonight had some throw-in action. Colton Lane, a lot of tough battling for you this evening. Talk us through how you felt your night went in your brown and orange machine.
Well, the American Breadcrumb Company Chevrolet had a little bit of struggles early on. It didn't qualify well, and had a little bit of an incident there about a quarter of the way through, and just made a strong comeback, man. A lot of tough battles with some guys out there, though.
How difficult was it to try and pass and to keep up some of those battles, to continue to move forward and keep a positive run throughout the day?
Trying to come on the bottom is what I like to do. I just tried to go around, and it's really hard to pass on the bottom. So you either had to have just a massive run, or hope they messed up on the outside and didn't get the best run, because it was very hard to pass on the bottom. And I mean, they're not giving it up out there,
Yeah, I know what you mean, especially with some of the tough battling here, but and all in all, though, it was a strong night for you overall. Now, though, we're heading to the Roval next. Your thoughts on your road course racing skills as we get ready to go turning left and right across some turtles.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to it. I'm not a great road racer. I'm going to be lucky to get a top 10 every time I go to a road course. That's what I shoot for. But any other track, I want to hit top threes, top fives, and stuff like that. But a road course, I'm going to be lucky to pull out a top 10.
Now, you mentioned your sponsor on your car. Is there anyone you want to thank overall, though, for being a part of your top 3 finish this evening, Colton?
Yeah, all the guys at Waterback Racing. If it's got an orange spoiler out there, there's pretty good odds that it's a Waterback car. Brendan Chatley did a lot of work for us. I think he's the one who basically got me the sponsor by networking, so thank you. And then thanks to American Breadcrumb Company for sponsoring me out here in the Cup and the Truck Series out here.
Congratulations on the top 3 finish tonight, Colton.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Will do. Colton Lane coming away third tonight at Richmond after starting in 8th position. But before we say goodbye here, Christian, not just these drivers are getting ready for the Roval, you're getting ready for the Roval. Your thoughts on going to that racetrack next week for yourself and for this series?
It is unbelievably difficult. And I mean that in the sense that I've kind of worked up to the road courses with the Cup car, and kind of just how it's fell in terms of the races I've done over the years and so on. And Watkins Glen, really nice, great track, awesome, great racing, loads of places to pass, kind of the easiest of the 3. Sonoma, yeah, that's difficult, but there's still passing places, the hairpin and so on, and there's a way of getting in a good rhythm. The Roval, it's like the track was made specifically to kind of bring out the worst in the car. It's got the tightest chicanes that are possibly imaginable. All the infield corners, the car is trying to kill you the whole time. It is so difficult. It's so hard to pass there. And I think whoever wins both, well, I say both, any race there in a top level series or any series for that matter, it is so hard. It is going to be such an achievement to do that. And I think the biggest thing is going to be kind of staying consistent, being methodical, and taking advantage of people's mistakes, because it's near enough impossible to pull off an actual pass there. There's no passing points, and it's going to be all about getting the strategy right, kind of keeping your head on, and just making sure that you're the one taking advantage of the mistakes, not making them.
So what's your finishing goal position again for the JTT Dordery racing machine this week?
Well, I think I know what I'm shooting for, and I'll say what I'll be unhappy with. If I'm outside of the top 10, I'm going to be really unhappy. If I'm higher than that, I feel confident in the speed that we've got.
I would ask just in case, as now some of the drivers that have been happy tonight: Bradley Hawley, Rob Haynes, Colton Lane with their top 3 finishing positions. But it's time to say goodbye. We'd like to thank you for tuning in for tonight's exciting action from Richmond Raceway. We'd also like to thank tonight its organizers in the Precision Racing League for organizing this very strong, very competitive series. We'd also like to thank the companies that provide our software and hardware for our broadcast, as listed up here on your screen now. Additional thanks go to Judah Lond, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of her great work. Thanks to the team today of Christian and Joe. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including the upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. Or you can check out our social media on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global SimRacing Channel, or Instagram at GSRC_Graham. Don't forget to head over to our YouTube page and hit that big red subscribe button, as well as the notification bell, so you don't miss a moment here on the Global SimRacing Channel. As mentioned, the next race is at the Charlotte Roval. That takes place on September the 29th. Coverage starts at 8:50 p.m. Eastern Time. It's going to be a doozy to see who survives the turtles and survives the new backstretch chicane on the circuit. You also have a lot of upcoming races for other series listed up on your screen, including the PRL Truck Series and the Road Course Racing equivalents. Check those out and mark them down in your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.